This is the Cholo News Report for Tuesday 13 November 2018. Israel and Hamas exchange missile fire with 300 rockets being launched from Gaza within the span of 3 hours. After a botched intelligence mission by undercover commandos left 7 Palestinian fighters dead, the militant group Hamas and other armed factions mounted an intense and escalating rocket and mortar barrage across much of southern Israel. With the raid sirens wailing from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea, and after a Palestinian anti-tank missile blew up an Israeli bus, seriously wounding a 19-year-old soldier, Israel retaliated with airstrikes and tank fire that grew steadily more destructive as the night wore on. The talks, mediated by Egypt, had already produced concrete steps to ease tensions in Gaza, including increased electrical power and the influx of millions of dollars in aid. A rocket fired from Gaza strikes an apartment building in Ashkelon, killing a man and injuring 2 others. This is the first Israeli killed due to Palestinian rocket fire since 2014. The fatality was the first in Israel after a day that saw more than 300 missiles and mortar rounds fired at Israeli communities near the Gaza Strip in a series of massive barrages that stretched past midnight Monday and into Tuesday morning. The man, in his 40s, was found dead under debris after an apartment building had been hit by a missile fired from Gaza shortly after midnight, according to the United Hezbollah Rescue Service. A 40-year-old man was also moderately wounded by shrapnel. 2 women in their 20s were lightly injured by blast shots, and 2 men in their 40s and a woman in her 90s were treated for smoke inhalation after a fire broke out at the scene, according to the Magen David Adom Ambulance Service. Amnesty International strips Myanmar State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi of its highest honor, the Ambassador of Conscience Award, which she received in 2009, because of her inaction regarding the persecution of Myanmar's Rohingya Muslim population in Rakhine State, and the military operations in Kachin and Shan State. We are profoundly dismayed that you no longer represent a symbol of hope, courage, and the undying defense of human rights, Amnesty's Secretary General Kumi Naidu wrote in a letter to the Myanmar leader. The organization, which once fated her as a beacon for democracy, announced its decision on the 8th anniversary of Ms. Suu Kyi's release from house arrest. Aung San Suu Kyi's unswerving pursuit of democracy for Myanmar, in the face of a brutal military dictatorship, brought her nearly 15 years of house arrest. Pope Francis asks the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, now meeting in Baltimore, to delay voting on proposals to address the sexual abuse crisis until it leads a global summit in February. Donato, who looked shell-shocked Monday morning, tried to put a positive spin on the Vatican's decision, calling it a bump in the road. Donato also said that the text of the proposals for the bishops' meeting this week were finalized in October 30, which did not leave much time for the Vatican to raise objections or advise modifications. In a brief interview afterward, he said the Pope is concerned about communion, the idea that the Church moves together, as a whole, rather than allowing national bishops' conferences to make their own policies. Marvel Comics editor and comic book writer Stan Lee dies at the age of 95.